Hello everyone and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I'm making a slimline card featuring the Crafty Twinkle Slimline die. I'm also using the Ice Princess and Friends and the Slimline Snowdrifts by My Favorite Things. I started by die cutting the Crafty Twinkle Slimline die, and I have poked out all the stars and the dots that are on this completed panel. I must admit, these stars that you can poke out of or you can leave them in are just fabulous. I decided to keep them separately to just have them as shaker materials for another card that I want to create. So that's something that you can do. You can also blend your background and just fill up those stars again. You can also use this panel as a stencil. So many ways of using this amazing die, just however you like it. I have already blended a bit of the spun sugar on the edges of this panel, and I thought of covering up the edges now so that I would just have a light pink edge, but this purple tape that I was using, the quality wasn't as good, so it lifted up while I was blending the darker colors. So in the end I just decided to remove the purple tape and blend all the way onto this panel with all the colors without leaving my edges lighter. But you can definitely choose whatever you want. Some people prefer having the completed panel in one color, some people prefer having a white border. But that's the gorgeous thing about this die. There is also the stitch detail on the edges, which I really like, so you can do whatever you want with it. I am also using my distress inks today, and this panel is from Strathmore Bristol Smooth. This paper is known to make it a bit easier to do some ink blending, to get a nice transition between different inks, because it is smoother and the ink sort of stays on top of it. You have so much more time to ink blend and wiggle the colors around however you want to. That's also why this paper is really handy if you are new to the ink blending and you have just the regular inks. Of course, if you don't have the regular inks, or if you have both the oxides and the regular ones and you are having trouble with ink blending, maybe start with the oxide inks. Personally, and hearing from other people, these inks blend much easier. Of course, they have some sort of chalky finish, so that's something that you need to decide. With my background finished, I'm continuing with my images. As I said in the beginning, I'm using the same paper, so Strathmore Bristol Smooth, and I have stamped out these images using antique linen distress ink. This I am doing because antique linen is a really soft color of ink, and it allows you to see all the lines so that you are able to color the complete image. And then in the end you will still have the illusion of having it drawn by yourself, because the lines will be covered up by the colors that you are using, and that's just a wonderful end result in my opinion. So I really like doing this. You can also do this with Copic markers, however I find it really difficult, but that's personal. But I have less control over Copic markers. Zigs are also really handy, and there are color pencils and all other sorts of mediums to use for coloring in your images. The idea is just that you use a really soft ink or a lighter color than what you are going to end up with, and then you can get this result. So I have smushed all my distress inks that I wanted to use on the side on an acrylic block, and I am coloring in my images. The way I do no-line coloring, and it's not specifically this way that you should do it, but this is what works for me, and it's that I take a lot of the ink onto my paintbrush. I go to my images, to the edges where I want more shadow or more depth to be created, and I add the ink. Once that's added, I am going to my cup with water, and I am creating a damp paintbrush. So it's really important with Strathmore Bristol Smooth to don't over use the water. Strathmore Bristol Smooth can handle water, but also not as much. So I create a damp paintbrush, and with that damp paintbrush I return to my image and I move the colors around to the other parts of, for example, the face, or in this case the hair, and that's how I create my shadows. And I just keep adding layers and layers until I'm happy with the depth and the shadows that I have created. And that's how it works for me. Of course, there are other ways. You can also use watercolor paper, whatever you like, but this is what works for me. So here I am going over it again, adding more ink, and now I'm dragging it out using a damp paintbrush. So coloring like this takes a bit longer than standard coloring for me. So there is a lot of coloring in this video, so I hope you enjoy watching coloring. Otherwise you can just skip it a bit and just check out the rest of the card, of course. But yeah, that's how easy it can be. Definitely worth a try if you like the end result. You can only get better once you start with it and you try it out and see where you can improve yourself. For the dresses of the princesses, I decided to use the same colors as on the background, so that it all fit a bit more with each other, and it will all be pink because pink is beautiful. Sometimes you just need a pink card or a blue card, and that's just fine. So that's what I'm doing today, a pink card. So onto the dress as well. I'm just adding it where I want to have more shadow, and then my damp paintbrush, and I'm just dragging the color towards the rest of the dress. I don't mind having completely white areas on my images. If you don't like it, you can always use a watered down version of your distress ink or whatever ink you're using and just fill up the white space. I'm not going to color certain parts of the dress, like the bottom there. I'm going to add some glitter on there, so it doesn't need any color in my opinion. So I'm going to leave that white, but the rest of the image I will color completely, as well as on the other princess. So for the rest of the coloring I will put on some music and I will be back afterwards. So that was the complete coloring, and now I will use the matching dies to cut them out. For the background, I also die cut the slimline snowdrifts and I trimmed them down to the width of this panel, and now I'm going to add my sentiment. So for the sentiment, I decided to check which color would work best, and I ended up with the Cranberry by Concord and 9th. So I'm going to stamp out this sentiment onto my lowest slimline snowdrift. And I'm stamping it a few times to get a good impression. And then I will add a gold piece of paper on the back of my panel. So this gold is by Tonic Studios and it's the Metal Sheet Empire Gold. I straightened it a bit and that's why it was curled up all the way, but it works fine, and since it is metallic, it really has a gorgeous gold shine, so it stands out amazingly from the rest of the background. I'm adding my snowdrifts now to my panel, and the first one I just added flat on there. My second one I am lifting up using some Scotch 3M foam tape, and I'm making sure to cover it completely to help during mailing. So now I'm adding this to my panel as well, and then I can add my images. So for my images, I have die cut them, and I'm going to use a combination of thin foam squares as well as the Scotch 3M foam tape for my princess on the first snowdrift. This way the height is perfect compared to the height of the hill. So I'm making sure that I'm not covering parts of the princess that will be overlapping with the hill, and then I can just add a bit of liquid glue on the bottom of the princess and everything will be secured. The fox I will just add to this hill with some liquid glue, and then I will finish these princesses, as I said before, with some glitter. So the glitter that I'm using is a Stickles diamond, and I'm going to add it to the dresses as well as to their crowns. And then when everything is dry, I also added this panel on a card base, of course. And then my card is completely finished. I really adore how this backgrounds turn out. I also really like all the ideas that I got to do with this panel, with the background that I die cut. There are so many ways of using it. So I think there will be a lot more cards that I can make with this die. I hope you enjoyed this video and that you liked the end result. If you did, you can always leave a thumbs up on this video, and I truly hope that I will see you back with my next video. Bye!